seeing a picture of it in a museum, and it was kind of dilapidated, but it had been a big house.
Yeah.
And I somehow got it in my head that it was connected to Minnie Lightfoot, that she had lived in that area. Am I incorrect in that, or could that have been
No,
something?
I don't think the ice house was owned by, in later years, by the Monkeys, the name of the people. They lived in Hammond, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the ice house. And in fact, as a boy, I remember cutting ice in the lake. But it's just a little vague. But the ice house was not in operation then. It was already defunct.
Mm-hmm.
But the ice they were taking out, they were cutting it and dragging it across the lake and putting it in the ice house with the straw and that sort of thing. The ice house, as I remember, was on the other side of Wolf Lake. And the only way to get out there was out the railroad track, because there's, you know, so much swampland there. And the streetcar going to Hegwish went down Ewing Avenue to 118th Street and turned west to the entrance at Republic Steel. And then from there it turned on Green Bay Avenue and went straight into Hegwish to Baltimore Avenue. Not Baltimore, but Brainerd Avenue, and terminated at 136. And out there by the chemical plant, there was a bypass. There was only one track, and they had a bypass there, and then the other bypass was over at the Republic Steel. They had a siding at Republic Steel because at the change of shift, they used to have 2 or 3 streetcars there waiting for the people to come out of the mill. Well, Jim Fitzgibbons, I heard and knew of him for a long time, but where I live now, he lived across the street with his parents. And at the time, he was most prominent as, well, he was a supervisor at U.S. Steel, but he was also the manager of the Sun Dodgers baseball team. It was kind of a semi-pro outfit made of men that were older than high school, probably of college age, and formed the Sun Dodgers team. And they played throughout the community and throughout the area. They played a lot of games like at the Joliet Prison and other places like that. And Jim was quite supportive of it. In fact, he put a lot of his own money in. A lot of the fellas didn't have money to even buy equipment, you know, and he supplied him with shoes and suits and you name it, you know. So he was really dedicated to the team. And that went on and on until finally the team broke up for some reason or other. I don't know what that was. Then later years, Jim became a little more active in the chamber, and then he got the idea about the East Side Memorial. And when he got the idea, he called a group of supposedly leaders, you know, in the community of different organizations for a meeting down at the boardroom at the East Side Bank and Trust Company, and tossed the idea out about the memorial and about getting it going. And we had pretty good turnout. I'd say there might have been 30 people down there representing different organizations. I myself represented our Czech organization. And so it was kind of a thing that it It wasn't organized, and yet it was the start of an organization. Jim had a lot of ideas and was tossing them off everybody, and to get it going. And then, of course, he was able to get the U.S. Steel to get involved in it, so that when the final decision was made on the memorial, it was the U.S. Steel people that really built it. And they supplied the manpower to build it.
This is the memorial at 100th Street we're talking
Yeah,
about.
at 100th Street, right. And the granite stone came from a building, well, where the Steel City branch is. There was a building there, an old building, and it was owned by the Steel City Bank. And then Bud Kessler, the contractor, bought it, the building. And then I got that in reverse. Kessler owned it, and then the Steel City Bank got it because they wanted that corner for the branch. And the Kesslers, and I guess maybe the bank was involved, donated the stone, the limestone foundation, and that was cut out for the base for these pillars that we have set up over there. And I don't know where the bricks came from, maybe through U.S. Steel, but U.S. Steel supplied the foreman, supplied the bricklayers, and did all that work in erecting the monument. The cannon over there was refurbished by Vernon Steel, but Angelo Firestone paid for the work done there, supplied the tires for the cannon, and they paid for some other expenses too. Now the blacktopping, I think, and that was done through Vodak's office, but I'm not sure of that, how that came about. There were a few meetings of this group that I missed, so I don't know what transpired.
But Jim Fitzgibbons was the spearhead of it.
Jim, yeah, the spirit of it, and of course the spirit of the museum. He worked with John Roma at the park, and John in turn worked with the park district, and of course here where Vodak came, Ed had a lot of influence in pushing it too. Park district came through refurbishing the room, which at one time was the East Side Library. They was in there, and they did all the refurbishing inside, put up the protection, the security gates, and that thing, sort of thing. I think they put in a new floor too, but I'm not sure. But anyway, they got the room ready for the museum. And unfortunately, in the meantime, Jim passed away. There were some things that were in there that Jim was able to pick up there. I think that case that they have in the corner he had gotten from somewhere. And there were a number of other things that he had been able to get people to donate.
They had a fair amount of office furniture when I first went in there about 3 years ago. The office furniture was dominant at that point. There were desks, there were file cabinets, there were the display cases that you mentioned.
Yeah,
and those things were
desk and the file cabinets that came from Standard Oil. Yeah, and that again was after Jim passed away. But one of the women, I don't know which one of the women working there, knew somebody that was connected with Standard Oil, who put the word in for the desk and the files. Frank may have that information.
Probably, yeah.
He was involved in it.
Now, this was after the Historical Society was already established as an organization.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
right. It was started, and what really happened is that after Jim passed away, everything kind of cooled off. There was no direction. Nobody seemed to be involved or wanted to be involved, and that's when the chamber got involved. And, in fact, I think I was the one that brought it up. I said, "Gee, let's not let this project die." And of course, at the time, I was probably thinking a little more of the chamber, because over the years, we've been talking. The chamber should be the top honcho, if you want to put it that way, on the east side, not to take over, for PTAs or even the Historical Society, but to act as a catalyst, to work with the organization, because the Chamber of Commerce name, anywhere you go, has a certain significance. People kind of look up to it, rightfully or not, I don't know, but the Chamber of Commerce can more often than not get their foot in the door somewhere where some other lesser organization may be able to, but may have to fight to get in, or fight harder, let me put it that way. And so when this thing was dying down, I said, let's not let it die. Let us get in there and get it going and go after it. See, and that's when Frank and the chamber got involved in it to pursue it and try to develop it, which it did. Little by little.
I think your point is well taken, too, about the importance that the Chamber of Commerce can play, because I'm thinking of the things that we accomplished in the last 2 years with the von Zerngiebel grave site rehab, and especially with the boundary line marker. I don't think we could have accomplished those kinds of things without the function of the Chamber of Commerce at the center of that. That, in fact, that was, as you say, the catalyst that brought together the elements that made it possible to build that. I think that's awfully important.
And I think once you get it started, then you've got the other historical groups from the state and city. Then they associate themselves a little more with the historical. They know the chamber's there. They know the chamber's kind of involved, but their direct contacts are then more with the Historical Society in a way it should be, because they've got the know-how in that phase of the business, so to speak. They can lend perhaps support in another direction that maybe the chamber doesn't have the expertise on. And I think that's the important thing. And I think that's the important thing on anything. I think any of these groups, PTA, if they've got trouble at the school and need support, they should come to the chamber. And the chamber should get behind them, not take over, but get behind them and give them whatever support they need. If it needs letter writing to officials of the government, state, federal, whatever, perhaps the letter should start out from the chamber with copies, to the PTAs, or even have them involved in it, maybe letters from them too. But I'm sure that the chamber letterhead is going to get a little more attention a lot of times than some others.
It's an important leadership function. I was thinking as you were talking about that, about discussions of classic leadership in an organization or in the military or anything like that. And the role of a good leader really is to bring together elements that can get the job done.
That's right.
Not to do the job itself.
That's right.
Or himself or herself. So that the chamber performs a leadership role in that.
You got to be careful that you don't force yourself to be doing things that, for instance, the Historical Society, if the chamber were to try to take over too much, that wouldn't be right.
Bog yourself
you've got
down.
people that are there, they're going to do the job. And the only time the chamber should come in is help is needed, or if sometimes you see something that's not going right, maybe to question it.
Those are important functions.
Mhm.
Now, the Historical Society got its start in the town hall meetings of '76. Was that it, or did it start before that?
Well, I think it was an idea. Let me put it. The town hall itself. Uh, there was a lot of controversy on that. We had groups that were fighting it, groups that were thinking that it was socialistic or had communistic tendencies, the chamber took quite a beating on that. And the bank, Joe Oliveri at the time was the president. The bank got a pretty good going over on it from these groups, But we had it at high school, and it served its purpose, at least to get it going. And then it kind of died down, and that's when I would say in that interim is when Jim was working on this and getting going. Jim did a lot of things on his own that didn't tell anybody too, So some of that you got to kind of piece together afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
And Jim had a lot of good, strong connections with Congressman Murphy, who was our congressman at that time.
That was Morgan Murphy? Morgan Murphy was
Morgan
that his name?
Murphy, yeah. And so he was able to get a lot of things done through the federal government, through Murphy. And come on in, Frank.
I don't want to interrupt you.
And,
Just join in with that.
Yeah. So that also was a help, obviously. Just the idea that people knew that there were contacts, how strong they were. They may not have known. Maybe they made them stronger than they were, and yet it served its purpose, so to speak.
Open doors and got that.
Yeah, in fact, this pen is from Morgan Murphy. When I had my last year in the chamber, then he presented me with this pen, and I get a beautiful set of cufflinks and a tie thing from it's from the Congress, House of Representatives.
It must have been a good quality pen. It's held up for a while. Isn't it?
Yeah, right. Right. And the cufflinks I've never worn. It looks so beautiful. One of these days I will, before I pass on.
The occasion for cufflinks is the occasions for cufflinks are limited these days, unfortunately. That's just saying.
Right.
Rarely get to wear them too. Well, it sounds like Jim was an important cabalist in his own right then too, at the early days of
Oh,
of
sure.
But it started with the memorial.
And he was kind of a leader. He got these groups together, and once he got them together, they functioned real well. We had a raffle, and we were collecting these things that we were going to bury in over there in the child's casket, which we never got to. But he had a lot of good ideas, really.
Did that time capsule, has that disappeared, the first one, or is that still, are the ingredients of it still available?
Well, we were looking for those, but we couldn't locate all these. Bill Benham, Hucker, worked at the bank, and he worked real close with Jim. They were very close support from Hucker and the bank. And then they were supposed to have all these names and everything in a vault at the bank. But when we went to look for them, they weren't nowhere around. Frank got a hold of Hucker. He never did get back to you, did he?
Well, I talked to him.
Yeah.
But he couldn't remember, and Don Zark couldn't remember,
Right.
Flo Sellers couldn't remember, and that Powell didn't know.
Good Lord.
Well,
And that surprised me a little bit because we were so involved in it.
It was never done,
Yeah.
because of that. But now we got the capsule we're gonna bury this time, Jim?
Yeah, right. And Mike can. You ever put my name on it?
I hadn't met Jim Fitzgibbon before, so all the contact or perception I had of him was mainly from your reaction and Frank's reaction about him, and I got the impression of someone who was a very critical element in the formation of all these things.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds like what you're saying today supports that. And
Yeah,
also,
Jim was a catalyst, but like anybody that's a kind of a leader, he had friends and he had enemies, you know. Probably a lot more friends than enemies, obviously. I wouldn't, maybe enemies not even the right word, or people that
Critics.
didn't always,
Yeah.
critical of you. Yeah.
We all have critics.
Yeah.
if you do anything at all, yeah,
That's right.
that's true.
If you do nothing, you have no critics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even then, doing nothing can be defined as something, you know, they can go off on that
Yeah.
too.
He came from a fine family. His mother and father were typical old Irish family, you know.
Were they from the old country?
Huh?
Were they from Ireland?
Yeah. And the kids used to play ball in the grass, and I'd be out there raising the devil with my son, and they'd be raising the devil with me. The grass will grow again. Don't worry about it, you know. Don't worry about the grass. I worry about your windows.
Are any of his family still in the area? Any relatives at all of Fitzgibbon?
I don't think so.
I think Joe, his brother, just died, you know, in the last year.
Yeah.
And I think that was the last. The sister died.
His sister died about 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
John died maybe 10 years ago.
Hmm.
There must be some, you know.
Grandchildren,
Yeah.
obviously. Yeah.
His sister had kids.
But not necessarily still in the neighborhood.
Yeah, well, Jeanette had 4 or 5 children.
Yeah.
Yeah. She worked in that General Mills for a while when she was single.
Yeah, Jeanette. You know Jeanette.
Yeah.
But the Poproveks, you know, really he kind of adopted Don Poprovek, really as a
Yeah.
son, you might say.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Nick and Jim were great friends. And, Jim died, and Nick died 6 months later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. Perhaps there's the Poproveks that people maybe should talk to about Jim a little bit if you need more information, because he was at their house all the time. They lived over in your neighborhood. They lived in a 3-flat over there. 2-flat. But they lived down in the block there where Aunt Pettigrew lives, in that area.
But on H?
Huh?
On H?
I need you.
Joanne might know.
Or was it J? J or H? I'm not sure.
The name is Poprovic?
Poprovek. Yeah.
Joanne would probably know him. She's lived there all her life.
Yeah.
Carolyn used to work in Verdovic's office, you know, and then
Yeah.
I don't know where she went from there.
She works downtown somewhere.
Does she?
Yeah.
And we have enough information based on just what you've said today, but for a more in-depth history, you know, that would include just more on Fitzgibbons himself, that'd be a good source.
Yeah, I would.
I think we've said enough today because I'm going to edit anyway. But
Yeah.
I just wanted to get
Yeah,
some
and
background.
then he said, like the oldest boy, Don, well, Nick, the father, he and Fitzgibbons were all together all the time. Nick played ball for him. Then they used to go to different places, go out of town to ball games and things like that. So Jim was almost like his father, to tell you the truth.
Well, that Clippers baseball team, you know,
Yeah.
and Nick managed it, and Don pitched on the Clippers.
That whole thing of semi-pro baseball is an area that's been, it seems to have disappeared from a lot of our awareness, because I remember hearing very little about it as a kid. I think it was already by the late 30s, something that was dying off. But talking to Ed Cusick, talking to Augie, talking to you both, and listening to people who've been involved in it, it was a very big part of our society at one time. There were an awful lot of guys. I remember Augie was talking about the fact that we had people who had been pros on some of the semi-pro teams, and also he said that there were some people who wouldn't become pros on it. And Joanne was listening to that, and she said, "Why would that be?" And I said, "Well, Ed Cusick had said at another time that they were making better money as semi-pros, working for companies, than they were in the professional. They weren't making $1 million a year contracts in the professional leagues at that time."
Yeah, well, they had, like in Anchorage, they had the P&A team, Tony Pyatt.
I remember that.
Yeah, and I used to follow them. I knew Tony real well. They didn't have automobiles to mount anything, you know. Sometimes the fellas that I used to get my dad's car, and I'd take Tony Pyatt, and there was a guy by the name of Kosh or something. He was a first baseman, and they played in the P&A league. And then Tony Pyatt, he got a tryout with the Sox because there was a fellow from Anchorage that was a ticket sales person at Sox Park, and he was able to get him introduced to somebody, and then he got a tryout with the Sox, but he ended up playing with Pittsburgh. I think it was Pittsburgh or Philadelphia, one of those teams, and he was quite a good ball player, but the P&A team itself was a good team. They played in this Polish league that was associated with the P&A, this thing that was headed up by this guy that just
Polish
died.
National Alliance.
Yeah, right. And so they played all over the city, and I used to go with them. You know, I had the car, so I had to be with them. You know.
Resource people are important.
Right, yeah. So, but like you say, I think when Tony went, of course they sent him down into the minor league somewhere, where they traveled all around by bus, and I think he got something like $75 a week paid, and then I guess all you could eat. But they stayed in back rooms, taverns, a lot of things like that.
Low budget operation.
Yeah, right. And they played ball tonight in some small town, and then get in a bus and sleep on a bus and play ball in some other town the next night. So it was rough going there for a while. Of course, fortunately, he came out with a good name and was able to establish the automobile dealership.
You're the first one who's connected it back to baseball, and I thought I was imagining things because I'd seen his name, of course, on automobile agencies for years, and I kept thinking, baseball, why, not, I had trouble connecting him with automobiles, and I thought, am I imagining it? Wasn't he the one that was in baseball? And you're the first person who's mentioned that in a long time.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that. And he must have been he must have been wrapping up probably when I was a little kid. But I do remember the name.
Yeah, this is, I'm talking about early 30s. Early 30s,
And then I probably heard about him from people who were still talking
in
about
fact,
him.
it might have been the 20s because I was married in 1930, and I was single at the time.
Did he have another business that had to do with windows, storm windows kind of thing, a specialized kind of storm window?
It might have been a brother. There were 3 brothers, and I think they all ended up in the dealership. But in fact, I think there might be a grandson or something involved there, but I don't even know if it's owned by the Pyatt family anymore.
That was my first connection out in Oak Park. We used to go by a place that had the name on there, and I thought, not windows, baseball. And then there was the automobile dealership, and I said, same thing, no. My memory says baseball.
Yeah.
So that was it.
My aunt, Ford plant, and this guy here, he was in a car with 3 other people who come from Anchorage, and Anchorage had drawbridge across the river, and they went off, and all four drowned in the river. Guy was about 22 years old.
Was that on that section of road that doesn't come through anymore? That it's on Republic property now?
No, this was on 130th by that Calumet Harbor. Yeah, they went off there. Because they had a bridge there at the time similar to 106th Street Bridge that swung around. And it was open, and I guess they've been drinking or something, I don't know.
Tragic. Well, Jim, I want to thank you for the interview. For the time we picked, I think I got the answers to the questions I wanted.
Yeah, I hope so, yeah.
I think so. I think we got plenty of
If
usable.
something comes to mind, give me a call. I'll try to dig up it right if I can.
Okay, that'll be for another tape, but we'll do it.